بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلوات الله وسلامه على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. In the name of Allah, the compassionate, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His Prophet Muhammad, his family, his companions all, and his followers until the day of judgment. I'd like to welcome you to this second episode on the life of Al-Imam Muhammad Ibn Idris Al-Shafaiee, the biography of this great Imam who devoted his time and his energy during his 54 years of life to the service of Islam, seeking knowledge, distributing knowledge, giving out whatever he had of his abilities to expand on the knowledge of fiqh in particular. Now, Al-Imam Al-Shafaiee rahimahullah, when moving from Baghdad back to Mecca, he learned so much during his 2 years of stay in Baghdad. Where he went back to Mecca, he started teaching at Al-Masjid Al-Haram and making the principles of what we now know as usul al-fiqh, the fundamentals of fiqh, because he had the knowledge of hadith and he had the knowledge of ar-ra'i or opinion, so he knew the school of Mecca where he learned in his first place, and then he went to Medina, learned at the hand of Al-Imam Malik, so he learned also from the school of Medina. He went to Baghdad, he learned from the school of Baghdad and the Hanafiyyat school, and he met so many people. He had some debates with some of the students of knowledge there. All of this made him able to think about deducing some of the principles that govern seeking the rules regarding the Sharia and ibadat and muamalat, the worships and the dealings. That made Al-Imam Shafaiee even more well-versed in these areas, and he was interacting with other scholars, particularly during the time of Hajj. He met, for example, Al-Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal, which we will talk about, inshallah, in separate episodes. But Al-Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal met Al-Imam Al-Shafaiee, and he thought that he saw a new man, and he said he is independent person, he is unique of his kind, as Al-Imam Ahmad, after meeting him, described him. So Al-Imam Muhammad Ibn Idris Al-Shafaiee had all this knowledge, and he wanted to develop what he called ijtihad, which is to exert one's effort in getting the rules from the glorious Quran, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the sayings of the Sahaba, and even from analogy and all of the tools that were employed in getting these rules. Al-Imam Al-Shafaiee, in fact, was a pioneer in this field, and therefore he established the rules of usul al-fiqh, or the principles of fiqh, at his own time, particularly after coming from Baghdad and staying in Mecca. But the urge to get more knowledge still was there in the heart of Al-Imam Muhammad Ibn Idris Al-Shafaiee. That's why he moved again to Baghdad for the second time. That was when he was about probably 34 years of age, and he again met Al-Imam Muhammad Ibn Al-Hasan Al-Shaybani, and he met some other people in Baghdad, and he probably spent another 2 years there in Baghdad. And he probably went to Basra along with Baghdad. However, Al-Imam Shafaiee did not feel to stay long there in Baghdad, particularly after Al-Khalifa Al-Ma'mun came over. And Al-Khalifa Al-Ma'mun, we know that he had this fitna of khalqul Quran, this testing and trial and tribulation of the proclaim that Al-Quran was created. It was not spoken directly by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but rather was independently created. That, of course, is against the true belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke it, and Allah's ability to speak is eternal. And therefore, why would Allah create Quran when He spoke it directly to Jibreel and He revealed it directly to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam through that great revelation? Now, of course, when he felt that the atmosphere in Baghdad was not right, he moved to another place. He wanted to go to Egypt. And there in Egypt, he taught for about 4 years or 5 years until he died in Egypt at the year 204 Hijrah, corresponding to 820 of the Gregorian calendar. Now, that was a brief story of the life of Al-Imam Abu Hanifa. I will tell you about how he died, but before that, let me emphasize what Al-Imam Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i rahimahullah did in Baghdad and in Egypt in particular. Because when he went to Egypt, he found a new situation. He found that people were either following the Maliki school of fiqh or the Hanafi school of fiqh. And he said, no, I can combine the two together. I can get the best out of the school and the best out of the school. In other words, he would depend on the Quran and the Sunnah, and he would find, again, any room for exerting his effort to find, even to depend on opinion and some classification, organization of some of the issues of the time there, and therefore he was able to produce a new fiqh, which is again going along the same lines of the imams before him, the two imams, Al-Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah and Al-Imam Malik ibn Anas rahimahullah. But he had his own, and he wrote his great book, Al-Risala, the Message, where he laid down these principles of usul al-fiqh in that book. And he even produced a new book called the Mother, and which had thousands of hadiths and interpretations. And of course, it is printed nowadays in 8 big volumes, which was printed by Al-Azhar. And we know that Al-Imam Shafaiee rahimahullah had this great wealth of knowledge, and therefore he was able to give it to students, to interact even with the scholars of Egypt, like Al-Layth ibn Sa'd, for example. And he was giving the students knowledge. He loved Egypt. He even changed some of the things that he used to say in Baghdad because of the new understanding, and they call it al-fiqh al-jadid as opposed to al-fiqh al-qadim, the new fiqh, as opposed to the old fiqh in Baghdad. He was a man of open mind, a man who was ready to re-study and re-criticize and look at his own work. In fact, during that time, he found that some of the followers of Al-Imam Malik rahimahullah were so much exaggerating about the status of Imam Malik. They thought that he was even a holy person, in the sense that they used to go to some of his clothes, for example, in faraway lands like in Andalusia, and they would touch upon these clothes seeking barakah, as they say, or blessings. Of course, this is prohibited and not allowed, because the blessings can be taken only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asked from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not from a human, not to touch a human being or his clothes or whatever belongs to him. All of that was not right and was not correct, and therefore Al-Imam Shafaiee, feeling that he wanted to protect the concept of Tawheed and the concept of purity in Iman and believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wanted to clarify some matters. and he had some ideas that he wanted to rejudge some of the sayings and verdicts given by Al-Imam Malik rahimahullah, although these two were of great caliber, and they were, even Shafii was a student of Al-Imam Malik at one point in time, but he felt he wanted to give a second opinion regarding some of the things Al-Imam Malik said, and therefore he was hesitant in the beginning because this was his own teacher, he was his own ustad, as he said. And then at one point in time he said, after making istikhara, I will produce this book. And he produced this book regarding the fiqh of Al-Imam Malik in Egypt. That of course provoked those from the Maliki school in Egypt, and even they complained to the governor of Egypt at that time that he's making these criticisms of our Imam and so on. Yet Al-Imam Shafii went on to give his own opinion, to seek the truth, because he was only looking at the Quran and the Sunnah and the saying of the Sahaba. That was the basis for all of his own fiqh, and that produced a new roads. It opened wide roads into the area of fiqh and enrich this field so much. I will be addressing more the biography of Al-Imam Shafii and his own character as a human being and a scholar after a short break. So please, stay with us.
The value of money in the hereafter will be measured by its proper use in the present.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي يوم لا بيع فيه ولا خلة ولا شفاعة.
According to the glorious Quran, one of the best ways to use your money is to spend it in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by spreading His message of Islam. Peace TV is a non-profit Islamic satellite television channel that is primarily dedicated for just that cause, the proper presentation of Islam. It's a great choice to invest in it and a golden opportunity to purify your wealth in a way that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Support Peace TV. Send your zakat and donations to IRFI Al Ryan Bank, 47 Calthorpe Road, Birmingham, UK, B151TH. Pound account number 011-32301. IBAN GB49ARAY 30008301 132301. Sort code 300083. Swift BIC code ARAY GB22. Please confirm your contribution at support@peacetv.tv.
Support Peace TV, the solution for humanity.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. We are back with you, and we are addressing the biography of Al-Imam Shafii. And as you heard, Al-Imam Shafii rahimahullah did what he did in order to establish the fundamentals of fiqh, and he wanted to even bring new roads into the area of fiqh and let people understand some rules brought from the Quran and the Sunnah. And that's why his school started to spread. Even in Egypt and some other places, Al-Imam Shafii himself had a great character. Although he lived in Egypt, for example, for only 4 to 5 years, he contributed so much, he did so much, because that was the culmination of his knowledge after going to Yemen, going to Mecca, Medina, Baghdad, and to Egypt. All of this gave him a wealth of knowledge. Now, how would you look at his own character as a human being? Well, he was a very, very humble man, very generous and kind. In fact, he used to help his own people, although he himself was poor, but yet, like Al-Rabi' ibn Sulaiman, I think he was one of his students, when he asked him about, did you marry? He said, yes, I married with 30 dinars, and I paid only 6, and still the rest to be paid later. Al-Imam Shafaiee sent him the 24 dinars that are still left from that dowry in order to pay it to his wife. And the same thing with his own character of ibadah. In Ramadan, he used to spend nights reading the glorious Quran and indulging in both the worship and the contemplation and the writing of knowledge. In fact, when he met Al-Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal in Baghdad, he said that Al-Imam Ahmed was telling his daughter about the biography and the way Al-Imam Shafaiee was conducting himself, and she kept observing what Al-Imam Shafaiee was doing. Of course, Al-Imam Ahmed was known for his intensive worship at night, but Al-Imam Shafaiee, she realized that he didn't go for wudu, he didn't probably stand up to perform salah, and then in the morning she said, Father, I didn't see your friend here, your companion, doing anything like standing up for prayer all night. Then he asked him, he said, what did you do, Imam Shafaiee, last night? He said, I kept thinking about some issues of knowledge, and I spent the whole night just thinking about that. Then Al-Imam Ahmad returned to his daughter and said, look, that's what this Imam is after. Yes, ibadah is not only to perform prayers, but also to indulge in the seeking of knowledge and to think about it and to try to find rules and how to get some guidance and light from the verses of the Quran and the text of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So that was the character of Al-Imam Al-Shafaiee rahimahullah himself. In fact, when you think about what people said about him in terms of his ibadah, his piety and taqwa, and all of what he did, for example, because he learned from so many sheikhs in different places, he also passed on the knowledge to so many students in Mecca and in Egypt. And in fact, if we can talk about all of the various people that he met, and he gained the knowledge, he sharpened his skills of looking after the rules in fiqh, but he had this very rich knowledge of Arabic in particular, and anyone studying Sharia has to master the Arabic language and has to know the various dialects and the meanings of what is in the Quran and what is in the Sunnah. It's not easy to reach this unless an effort is made, and that's what these people did, like Al-Imam Malik, Al-Imam Al-Shafi'i, Al-Imam Ahmad, and before them all, Al-Imam Abu Hanifa. May Allah be pleased with all these four and all of the scholars of Islam. Al-Imam Al-Shafi'i himself felt that I needed to do something because he learned from the school of Al-Iraq and the school of Medina, the school of Mecca. Even when he was in Yemen, he was studying at the hands of some scholars in Yemen. So he gained all of this knowledge together from various sources. And therefore, he was able to produce his own books. As we mentioned, we had so many books for him, either Al-Risala, which was originally written in Baghdad, but then developed later on in Egypt, the book where it is one of the greatest books in fiqh, in history. Also, he talked about ikhtilaf al-ahadith, the differences among hadiths, and he talked about bayanu fardillahi azza wa jal, the explanation of the obligation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sifatul amri wal nahi, the description of how you enjoin good and how you forbid evil. He's talked about اختلاف مالك والشافعي, the differences between Malik al-Shafi'i, اختلاف العراقيين, the differences among the Iraqis, meaning the Iraqi scholars of fiqh. He even talked about his own teacher, Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani, who was a student of knowledge and a follower of Imam Abu Hanifa. He said, الرد على الإمام أبي حنيفة. Even he refuted some of the sayings of Muhammad ibn al-Hasan, Fada'il Quraysh, the privileges and the good manners of Quraysh as a tribe, because he himself was a Qurashite. All of this gave us this wealth of knowledge from Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala. And of course, that if you think about what the great Imams of his own time and how they described him and how they praised him, like Al-Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal, who said that the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْعَثُ لِهَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ عَلَى رَأْسِ كُلِّ مِئَةِ سَنَةٍ مَنْ يُقَرِّرُ لَهَا دِينَهَا فكان عمر بن عبد العزيز رضي الله عنه على رأس المئة وأرجو أن يكون الشافعي على رأس المئة الأخرى. Look at this testimony by Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal, who said, the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah would send for this ummah at the top of every 100 years someone to re-establish its religion for it. And the Khalifa Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah, was sent on the top of the first 100 years, and I hope that Al-Shafi'i was the second one in the top of the 200 years, because Al-Imam Shafi'i lived until 204. So that was the status in the mind of Al-Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal. He said also regarding Al-Imam Shafi'i, إني لأدعو لمحمد ابن إدريس في صلاتي منذ 40 سنة فما كان فيهم أتبع لحديث رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم منه. Meaning among the fuqaha, he said, I kept making dua for Muhammad ibn Idris, meaning Al-Shafi'i, in my prayer for 40 years, because I did not see in any of the scholars of Islam, the fuqaha, more one strict in following the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ than Al-Imam Al-Shafi'i. Al-Imam Al-Shafi'i was not influenced by what he learned from the various schools or even by the various civilizations at the time, the Greek, the Roman, the Persian, and so on. They did not influence him in any way negative. Rather, the interaction sharpened his skills and made him what he was as a leader of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, as a great imam who enriched the area of fiqh with his own knowledge. Now in Egypt, coming to the end, Al-Imam Shafaiee rahimahullah died after getting so sick. Of course, he did not live for long, as we said, 53 or 54 years, and he had this disease of hemorrhoids where he used to get some blood even when he was very sick. When carried on his camel or his own horse, he used to get the blood out on his clothes and on the animal itself. So that was how he spent his lifetime. Even he was teaching when he was with severe pain, but he was after knowledge, teaching this knowledge, until he left with us this treasure of books that we kept and we are still celebrating until today and for the centuries to come. Al-Imam Shafaiee was a great contribution for this ummah. He was a man of caliber, a man of great abilities and skills, and a man of courage, and a man that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made as a leader for this ummah. That's why his madhab and school of fiqh spread not only in Egypt, but in Africa, East Africa, in Iraq, in some parts of Syria and the greater Syria, and even beyond that into Khurasan and the other areas in Central Asia, because of what he did for Islam and Muslims. May Allah forgive him, may Allah put him high in paradise. May He make us see him and meet him and enjoy his company in Jannah. Ameen. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد.
What are the main characteristics the callers to Islam need to succeed? The key to success in dawah and akhirah are good characteristics and excellent manners. Patience, sacrifice, mercy, forgiveness, and overlooking of faults. Ikhlas, taqwa, and nasiha. What do these mean? And how do we attain them? To find out more about these qualities, join me, Abdurrahim Green, in my series Characteristics of the Caller, here on Peace TV.
Discover those specific values that attract people towards Islam in Characteristics of the Caller to Islam. Every Wednesday at 11 p.m. and repeat telecast at 12 p.m. UK on Peace TV. The value of money in the hereafter will be measured by its proper use in the present.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي يوم لا بيع فيه ولا خلة ولا شفاعة.
According to the glorious Quran, one of the best ways to use your money is to spend it in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by spreading His message of Islam. Peace TV is a non-profit Islamic satellite television channel that is primarily dedicated for just that cause, the proper presentation of Islam. It's a great choice to invest in it and a golden opportunity to purify your wealth in a way that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Support Peace TV. Send your zakat and donations to IRFI Al Ryan Bank, 47 Calthorpe Road, Birmingham, UK. B151TH. Pound account number 011-32301. IBAN GB49ARAY 30008301 132301. Sort code 300083. Swift BIC code ARAY GB22. Please confirm your contribution at support@peacetv.tv.
Support Peace TV, the solution for humanity.